Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome back to ENL 51, Rap as Poetry. We're in week 5, and I've named the theme for this week identity and spirituality. Maybe for lack of better terms. That's kind of a broad set of terms already, and the songs that I've compiled for this week are kind of speaking to pretty different themes, or speaking to these themes in pretty different ways. But one, I wanted to follow up last week's heaviness on violence, death, and elegy with something a little bit more uplifting and show, kind of some of the different sides of what hip hop artists are up to. And secondly, some of the songs on this week's list are among my very favorite rap songs of all time, very favorite songs of all time. And they all ask kind of the big questions. Who am I? What is my role in the world? What is my relationship to other beings, to other people, and to whatever other kind of beings, spiritual or otherwise, that you might encounter? And I like that. I like songs and poems and stories and stuff that dig into the big questions like that. Yeah, I don't remember if I said this in a previous video, so if I did, forgive me. Sometimes I kind of forget, like I've taught this class so many times, and it's been, the past few times I've been recording videos. So I know I've said this on a video. I don't know if it's for this quarter, this summer, or if it was a previous one. So anyway, one of my teachers back in the day, I think it was Alex Pate, said this really amazing thing. He said, at its core, rap songs, the message of most rap songs, or one of the messages of most rap songs, when you really boil it down to its essence, is just to say, I am, I exist, I'm a human being. And I thought that was really profound. Scholars have pointed out that the slave narratives, the books, autobiographies written by enslaved Africans in the US in the, how did centuries work? In the 18th and 19th centuries, the 19th century, I think, is where almost all the slave narratives come from. What heck we on? Doesn't matter. You don't care about the time period, at least not for our particular purposes. Scholars have pointed out that the slave narratives very often begin with autobiographical details of, like, I was born on such a date. The names of my parents were this is where I was born, and this was the name I was given. That's how a lot of the slave narratives begin, and scholars argue that that's a way for the enslaved African person of the time to validate their identity, their social existence, as a way for them to say, I'm a human being like every other human being, and that affords me, certain inalienable, I'm not going to try to pronounce that word again, rights and freedoms, and basic respect and dignity as a human being. And so obviously rap is made in a very different time period, a very different socio-political and cultural context than enslavement of the 19th century. And yet rappers are still, especially Black and brown rappers, are still speaking into a social context where significant portions of society do not consider them fully equal, or at least the structures of society do not allow them to live a fully equal, dignified life. And so I think Alex Pate's point that the rap songs are saying, I am, I exist, I think is part of a longer tradition in African-American literature, especially. And I think it's super important to understand rap songs in that context, that even if a rapper seems a little bit vain or bragging about themselves, I think I said this in a previous class too, that even that boasting, that shit talking, yeah, that was when I talked about this, is pretty profound as a way of validating one's importance as an individual, as a human being, and as a free, creative, artistic mind and body. So that's the context, the broad background and context for this week's songs. And I'm just gonna jump into the background of the songs as usual. Um, First up, we've got one of my very favorite songs of all time. For my money, this is one of the greatest classics of the golden era of hip hop, and one of the most underrated as well. Arrested Development, Tennessee, from 1992. Arrested Development they were maybe like a two-hit wonder. Most of y'all probably hear the phrase Arrested Development and think about the TV show, which has nothing to do with them. When I, maybe that's not popular anymore. I don't know. But when I was like in college and grad school, I met a lot of people, like a lot of white folks who, I would be at a party or something, and they'd be like, "Oh," they'd be talking about Arrested Development. I overheard, and I walked over, and I was like, "Oh yeah, MC Speech, he's the man," And they're like, "Who? What? I don't remember that episode." I was like, "Episode? What do you mean?" And they're like, "Of the show, Arrested Development." And after the first 3 or 4 times this happened to me, I realized that Arrested Development that everybody talking about it is talking about a TV show and not to my mind, seminal rap group from the early 90s. But it was funny to me to act like I didn't know. So I kept doing that over and over again. And I'll still do it if somebody's talking about the TV show. I don't care. So Speech is the name of the MC, the rapper in Arrested Development. They were, to some extent, a live hip hop group from the early, using like instrumentation and stuff in the early 90s. I think they're from Wisconsin. This was one of their 2 or 3 hits. And this song, I think, is a beautiful reflection on spirituality, particularly in the kind of the cultural context that Speech is rapping in. He was how to say it? He was an extended member, or kind of loosely affiliated with a movement in hip hop around that time called the Native Tongues group and movement. De La Soul and A Tribe Called Quest and the Jungle Brothers were really the core members of the Native Tongues, but Arrested Development kind of circled in the same groups a little bit. And more than that, they shared a vibe of Afrocentricity. That's what I'm trying to work my way around to saying. In the early 90s, a lot of hip hop was Afrocentric. The aesthetics, the styles, the ideologies that some conscious rappers put forward were saying like that they wanted to ground hip hop and their identities in their African heritage and African identity. So Afrocentric was a thing in the early to mid 90s in hip hop culture, and Arrested Development is one of the key players in that. So the way that they're talking about African heritage, diaspora, or what it means to live away from one's homeland, and then almost like a double diaspora, because a lot of Black folks can trace their roots to the South, and yet in the Great Migration in the 20th century moved to industrial northern urban areas. And so these are some of the historical and political contexts that this song, Tennessee by Arrested Development, is speaking to. And phrase all that very well. So if you have any questions about it, as always, feel free to email me. I don't think I did this justice, but I love this song. I'm excited to see what y'all think of it. Up next, we've got De La Soul, I Am, I Be. So De La Soul, one of the members of the Native Tongues group, one of the core members. And they're a weird group. I mentioned in a previous week that Paz the Noose, especially, one of their 2 MCs, also known as Plug One, that he especially is considered by hip hop heads as one of the greatest abstract rappers of all time, one of the most influential figures in the history of abstract rap. And I agree with that. I think he's high on my list, especially for his work on this song and this album. This is their 3rd album, I believe, Balloon Mind State. And De La Soul, I Am, I Be. Yeah, that's right. They were really popular as kind of an alternative hip hop group in that time period. A Tribe Called Quest was working with like jazz music and Digable Planets, and De La Soul kind of spoke to that in the ideology of their lyrics. So they talk a lot about individuality, about resisting the mainstream of hip hop, about getting rid of violence in hip hop. And they were trying to usher in what they called the Daisy Age, which was a acronym for the inner sound, y'all. And so they're about the inner sound of kind of making hip hop express the spiritual and identity stuff of the individual. I don't understand what every line in this song means. I've listened to it hundreds of times in my life. I love it. And there's still moments where I'm like, I don't, maybe even like really big parts of some of the verses that I don't really know what they mean exactly. And yet they create a clear mood, a vibe through the imagery, phrases, and sounds that they include. Up next, we've got Tupac, Dear Mama. This is a great song. I think I was a little harsh on Tupac in a previous video, and I want to retract that a little bit. Super important figure in the history of hip hop, super beloved figure, and rightly so. He made passionate, meaningful, emotionally resonant songs, and he spoke from the heart. And I think this is one song, one example of that. Up next, Atmosphere. I've talked about them before. This song, God's Bathroom Floor. This was a classic in kind of early underground hip hop. This was one of the first times where a rapper like got super introspective and super real in their verse and used very specific poetic devices. I think I'll include one of the questions, optional questions, for the weekly forum post this week about the literary devices, the structure and style that Slug, the MC, is using in this song. Up next, Jay-Z, December 4th, from the Black Album. We've talked about Jay-Z a little bit before. The Black Album in particular, I want to say it's like his 8th album or something like that. I don't know. But he released this album saying he was going to retire, and then didn't end up, he came out of retirement after that. And it's interesting to me. This is one of the first songs on the record. And it's like, a kind of origin story a little bit. Speaking back to what I said earlier about the slave narratives and talking about one's birth and one's identity. Jay-Z participates in that narrative tradition here. It also sort of feels like a superhero origin story to me for some reason. But it's interesting to me that at what he thinks at one point is the end of his career, he looks back to the beginning and tells this origin story. I don't know what to make of that exactly. I don't necessarily have anything smart to say about it, but I find it interesting. And I think this is a beautiful and really cool song. Up next, Sa-Roc, Forever. I just found out about Sa-Roc recently, and I need to dig into her discography. She's another rapper who's super prolific. She has like almost a dozen albums, I think. And this is her first album on Rhymesayers Entertainment, one of the more important labels in the history of underground independent hip hop. The Sharecropper's Daughter is the name of the album. I gave it a few listens over the past few weeks. Really cool, really strong work. She's an incredible MC. Her complex rhyme schemes, multi-syllable rhymes, internal rhyme, her rhythms are out of this world. She's an extremely skilled MC. And I think what she has to say on this song is really poignant, really powerful. I wanted to give you a heads up. Maybe you've already listened to the songs. I think I recommended that you do that before. But I wanted to give you a heads up that there's like some kind of potentially triggering or activating material in this video, especially. The song has some lines about a suicide attempt, and the video has some imagery around that. I hadn't watched the video when I assigned this. So when I put it on the syllabus, I just watched the video before making this video. So heads up about that. And finally, on the required songs, we've got Noname, Rainforest. This is a single she released this year. And I said a little bit last week that I think Noname is the real deal. I'm super excited about her work right now. She's an MC from Chicago, and she's just like, from what I've read of interviews and read about her and seen what she's doing and then listened to her discography, I think she's incredible. She's an awesome person as well as an awesome rapper. And I think, if she makes a couple more records at the level that she's making them now, I think she's one of the people like Mos Def who I would put near the top of my list of MCs who have done really important, powerful, beautiful, artistic work with the art form. She is very politically active and involved. So this song, I think, speaks to the ways that her political affiliations or beliefs or ideology relate to her identity, her sense of herself, and a kind of spirituality as well. I think it ties up really in cool ways, all that stuff. I found out she was invited to put a song on the soundtrack for Judas and the Black Messiah. Is that the name of the movie? The movie about Fred Hampton and the Panthers. And when she read the script or saw the first cut of the movie or something and found out that the movie sort of erased the radical communist politics of the Black Panthers, she refused to put a song on the soundtrack. She revoked her support. That's what I was trying to say. There's a really big opportunity for an artist who's still not super well known, and she stood by her political principles and said, "This movie isn't doing it right." So I respect that. I think it's awesome. I think she's an incredible rapper, an incredible poet, and I'm excited, as I am with all these songs, to see what y'all have to say about it. Cool. And then the B-sides, the optional songs, that is run through right quick. We've got some more Black Star. We've talked about them. Hopefully this is enough reason for you to just listen to the whole Black Star album. It's a great album. I put it in my top 10 rap albums of all time, almost certainly. Don't quote me. Well, yeah, quote me on that. I think, yeah, I'll stand by that. We've got some more Lauryn Hill. Everything is everything. Got Brother Ali, Forrest Whitaker. I don't think I've talked about Brother Ali. I like this song a lot. I think you guys are going to like it a lot. You all are going to like it a lot. Brother Ali he's an albino white Muslim rapper from Minneapolis. And this song is a little bit about that. Common featuring Kanye West, they say. Common, there was a run where he was putting out really amazing music. He had a few records that were really great. This album, B, from 2005, is sort of polarizing. A lot of people love it. I think it's a masterpiece. A lot of people think that's when he kind of started to sell out or fall off. One of my mentors, Adrian Matika, who teaches a version of this class in Indiana, he likes to make fun of me for how much I like this album. Whatever. I think it's a great song. Up next, Blue in Exile. I talked about them before. Listen to the whole album, but this song, The World Is Below the Heavens, in particular, really cool and relevant to this week's themes. Got J. Cole, January 28th. If I remember, I want to send you a really funny comic strip I saw about J. Cole. Open Mike Eagle, Brick Body Complex. I don't know much about him. I've seen his name around a lot, and I finally listened to some of his stuff this past early summer, late spring. And I really dig this song. I think it's really cool. And I want to dig into his work a little bit more. And same with Princess Nokia, Brujas. She is a rapper I don't know much about. I originally had her on the required songs for this week. And then once I found out about Sa-Roc and Noname, I had to bump somebody. She got bumped down to the optional songs. The lyricism is a little bit less poetically impressive than what Sa-Roc and Noname are up to, or what Jay-Z's up to. But I think this is a dope song, and I highly recommend you listen to it. Cool. We're back to reading some chapters, some stuff from the chapter from Adam Bradley's book, The Book of Rhymes. And then as of this recording, I have chosen 2 poems for you to read. I might find a third, but I'm not sure about it yet. I've got Kari Jackson, Hip Hop Yoga. Kari is a great poet. He's a national poet, 2-time National Poetry Slam champion. He's a friend of mine, really good dude, and just a multi-talented artist. We're going to read another one of his poems next week, the final week. But this one, Hip Hop Yoga, I think is cool. And then Alicia Nicole Harris. She's another person who has a history in spoken word slam poetry. When I put my hands in the air, it's praise. I like this poem a lot. And as I said, I might find a third and post it, but that's the 2 that I've got so far. Cool. As always, if you have any questions about any of the material, the expectations, the assignments, etc., please feel free to email me. Otherwise, I look forward to reading your weekly forum posts, and you will see me again soon.